Alright, we are looking at voluntary manslaughter this week. So last week we looked at involuntary manslaughter, the week before that we looked at murder. So if you remember, so for murder, involuntary manslaughter and voluntary manslaughter, all the acts are the same. The actus reus, if you will, is the same, which is an act which caused the death of another person. A voluntary act which caused the death of another person. In murder, you're guilty of murder if your mental state was either to kill someone, to act in a way where you knew that you'd probably kill someone and then you acted anyway, or if you intended to seriously disfigure someone and then by doing so you killed them. So that's murder. Involuntary manslaughter is where you either commit an unlawful and dangerous act, and then as a result of that you've killed someone. So think like if you commit an assault and then during that, and you intend to commit the assault and then someone dies, then you're guilty of EDA manslaughter. Or if you are criminally negligent, falling gravely short of the standard of care that you owed to someone. This week we're looking at voluntary manslaughter. The best way of thinking about voluntary manslaughter is it's just murder, but with a few mitigating factors. So it's the same actus reus, right? So you still committed an act which caused the death of a person. The same mens rea, so you still intended to kill the person, but either you were subject to extreme provocation, you had a substantial mental or better just say impairment, a substantial impairment, which reduced your capacity, or you were using excessive self-defense. And then this will reduce the charges from 25 years, let's say, down to maybe 5 or 10 years. I think the maximum that you can get is 20 years. I'll have to double check. So this is a pretty neat lecture because these are all just in the Crimes Act. You can just find these section 23, section 23A, section 421. And there's a couple more causes of death that we'll look at down here. But to start off with, section 23 of the Crimes Act outlines extreme provocation. And it's basically if let's say I kill Bob, right? But Bob provoked me. This means that Bob, there's a bug there, would have had to commit a serious indictable offence. So we've got indictable offences which are serious offences, and we've got summary offences which are not so serious. So if you're caught speeding, that's a summary offence. If you're caught assaulting someone, then that's an indictable offence. If you're in America, just replace summary with misdemeanor and indictable with felony. So the deceased actions would have had to be an indictable offence that provoked the accused, which resulted in a loss of self-control. So if let's say Bob was coming to me and it was shoving me, and kept shoving me, like using force or that kind of stuff, I was like, "Oi, back off!" I punched him, and then he hit his head and died. And I intended to kill him. That would be extreme provocation. The test. Did I get the bugger? No, I didn't. I forget it. The test is an ordinary person test, so it's an objective test. But whereas we might use a reasonable person test if determining whether something is dangerous or not, because we're looking at how someone would have reacted, we can't really take the emotion out of it. Yes, I got him. Look at that. Not sure if you can see it. Because we're looking at someone losing self-control, and the reasonable person doesn't lose self-control, we look at what an ordinary person would have done. So, yeah, that comes from Rogers v. the Queen. Just let me check my notes to see what that says. Yeah, it doesn't strictly include emotional state, but it can sort of do other cognitive tests to determine whether a reasonable person, an ordinary person would have reacted in the same way. Yeah, so there's that. The provocation doesn't have to occur directly before the attack. Yeah, that's true. So, like, if someone kept shoving me and seriously injured me, and then I went back for revenge, and then I killed them maybe like a week later, then perhaps the provocation, the courts may find, that's the correct phrase that we use, the courts may find that the provocation was extreme and reduced my charges from murder down to manslaughter. What is an extreme provocation is mere words. So Singh versus the Queen, I think the husband killed the wife. The wife was like, "I don't love you anymore, I'm moving out, you're a worthless piece of trash," or whatever. And Singh was like, "No, I don't like that," killed her. And that's not extreme provocation. Conduct is not extreme provocation if it is a non-violent... Damn it, there's another one. Missed it. Is an extreme provocation if it's a non-violent sexual advance. the accused provoked the deceased to provoke the accused as an excuse for violence, or if one was self-inflicted drunks. Right. So if I've gone to the pub and I'm 10 drinks down, and then someone pushes me once, and then I take serious offence to that, and then I punch him and kill him, then I can't claim extreme provocation because I was drunk and I exposed myself to the drink. Might be different if someone else poured the alcohol straight down my guts, but anyway. Non-violent sexual events. So if we kind of looked at this gay panic rule during the lecture, which is basically if I'm a guy, which I am, and then another guy tries to hit on me, and then he doesn't touch me or anything, just like makes a bit of innuendo or whatever, and then I grab my Sapphire radio and graphics card support stick and I shove it down his throat, and then I kill him. That's not good enough. It can also happen, if I see an attractive lady and I'm like, hey baby, let's go get dinner, and then she takes serious offence to that, just because, and then she grabs the same Sapphire graphics card support stick and then shoves it down my throat. No, I didn't touch her, I didn't do anything, and thus that is not extreme provocation. It might be different if I'm trying to slip my arm around her or whatever. That might be that probably will be a different story. But if it's just words, that's not grounds for provocation. If the accused provoked the deceased to provoke the accused as an excuse for violence. So basically, if I want to kill Bob, right, and so then I start pushing Bob and being like, yeah, Bob, you're a B1, you're a dickhead, you're a whatever, and then that provokes Bob to then fight back, and then he provokes me, and then I kill him. Then that can't be counted as extreme provocation because I sort of started the chain of events. Yeah. So an indictable offence if it provoked the accused and if the conduct resulted in a loss of self-control. Yeah, okay, all that. Again, all that's covered under Section 23 of the Crimes Act. Excuse me. A substantial impairment occurs if the attacker lacked capacity to understand right and wrong, or the capacity to understand the events, or to use self-control, or they had a mental or cognitive impairment. Again, drunkenness is no defence. Your Honour, I lost capacity because I had 10 to drink, and I made myself drink all 10 of those drinks. Right? That's no that is no defence. So if we look at capacity, let's see. Yeah, so that's the ability to know right and wrong, pretty much. Yeah, so we looked at Dolly and Capax, but the test can expand a little bit more. So if you have a substantial impairment, it might be something like, for example, you heard some shocking news and you were still trying to come to terms with it, and then something else happened, and then because your brain wasn't there in the moment, because you just found out that your dog died or whatever, then you might do an act which intentionally kills someone, for example. So like you're not 100% there, and then that can impair your ability to understand right from wrong, or understand the events that are going on, understand the world that you're in right now, or to use self-control. If you've got a mental or cognitive impairment, again, the same acts, Section 23A, lists off just a couple of things. So impairments to memory or to adaptive functionings. Remember, we're adaptive people, right? We interact with the world and we analyse and we change our behaviour based on what's going on. So if you can't do that, if you can't reason, if you've got a learning impairment, all that sort of stuff, then that may be may count as a substantial impairment. It also lists off a couple of conditions which may reduce your capacity, such as dementia or a brain injury, or autism, or an intellectual disability. Again, beyond reasonable doubt has to apply to all these sorts of things. The other one was if your mum drank alcohol while you were a fetus, and that sort of screwed with your head a bit, that can also be counted as an impairment. What's interesting about this, though, is that a psychologist or a psychiatrist can't diagnose the accused and then tell the jury, hey guys, this person's actually got an impairment on memory. The reason why is because the psychologist will probably sway the accused into believing one thing or another. Yeah, so that's why experts can't provide their opinions, because then they're swaying the opinion of the jury, which, according to Australian customs, we can't have. Excessive self-defense is when objectively the defense was excessive, but subjectively it was believed necessary to prevent either death or loss of freedom. Again, Section 421 of the Crimes Act. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So like if well, probably RV Blake Davis is a good case for this. So there's a big long story behind this, but the bare bones of it is the accused had a girlfriend. The deceased came into the accused person's house with what looked like a gun, and then whacked the accused, knocked him out. And then the girlfriend started chasing the deceased out, right? And she was like, you know, you bastard, whatever. They got into a fight, the girlfriend and the deceased got into a fight. The accused came, got a samurai sword, and then killed the deceased to rescue his girlfriend. Now, objectively, he didn't have to kill him. He could have threatened him. He could have maybe chopped off an arm or something, which probably still would have resulted in an assault, but you know, at least the guy's not dead. Could have threatened, could have called the police, could have maybe not used a samurai sword, could have maybe used a baseball bat or whatever. So it was excessive, but subjectively, this guy's thinking, I have to save my girlfriend. She's going to die if I don't intervene. So excessive self-defense, if that's the case, then it reduces the crime from murder down to voluntary manslaughter. Yeah, so that's these are the sort of things that can be covered under voluntary manslaughter. We looked at a few other choice incidents throughout the Crimes Act. So Section 25A looks at one-punch killings. Excuse me. Basically just involuntary manslaughter. So normally if I punch someone in the head, it's not the actual punch that kills them, it's what they had on the way down. That's what will kill them. So if that's the case, if that happens while you're sober, then you're liable to be imprisoned for up to 20 years. If you do that while you're drunk, then you're liable to be imprisoned for 25 years. Why? I don't know. Sale of drugs causing death. This one really doesn't make too much sense, but we sort of have to go into it anyway. Section 25C of the Crimes Act says if a drug dealer, so if I'm a drug dealer and I'm selling drugs for my own financial gain, and I sell someone drugs, and I know that if they take the drugs, then they're going to die, and then they take the drugs and then they die, then I'm guilty of manslaughter. I'm guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Which is kind of stupid, because if I'm a drug dealer making bucket loads of money, I don't really want to kill other people, so I don't really know if they're going to die, and I don't really want them to die either. Sale of drugs causing death, yeah, that's that one. Dangerous driving. So this isn't really concerned about the minor offences. So, you know, let's say you miss the traffic light by 1 millisecond, it goes red, but it's still like the flow of traffic means that, you know, you've technically committed an offence, but you're still sort of in the flow. That probably wouldn't be counted under dangerous driving. If you're going maybe up to 5 k's over the speed limit, that wouldn't be counted as dangerous driving. If you're excessively speeding, 20, 30, 40 over the limit, or if you're drunk, or if you're driving dangerously, swerving, not sticking to a lane, all that kind of stuff, and someone dies, you're liable for voluntary manslaughter and 10 years, or manslaughter, I'm not really sure if it's voluntary or involuntary, and you're liable for up to 10 years imprisonment. Infanticide, I don't really know how to pronounce it. Infanticide, we'll say it's like that. Under Section 22A, so if I'm a woman, hypothetically, and I pop out a baby, and I have a mental health impairment, either due to the birth or exacerbated by the birth, and then I kill the baby within 12 months of it being born, then it is treated as involuntary manslaughter for all intents and purposes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening.